All right, Shalom. I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakah Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth, and double salutations to all you Akim out there laboring, the house of David, the elect, that's pushing his word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom to you, brothers, and shalom to the elect. I'm back with another quick lesson through the Holy Spirit, the Rakah Kwadash. And it says here in this video, it says, Europe's revenge, the American brands facing collapse.
Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a global economic storm that's hitting American companies hard. Boycotts of U.S. goods are sweeping across Europe, Canada, and beyond, fueled by outrage over Donald Trump's policies, including tariffs and geopolitical moves like the push to own Greenland. From tech giants to fast food chains, some of America's biggest brands are feeling the heat as consumers turn away in protest. In this video, we'll count down the top 10 companies collapsing fast due to these boycotts based on recent news and social media trends. Stick around to see which brands are struggling and why this could reshape global trade. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more updates on world economics. 1. Tesla. Tesla, the electric vehicle pioneer led by Elon Musk, is facing a devastating global boycott that's shaking its foundations. In Europe, sales have crashed with a staggering 72% drop in Australia and a 76% decline in Germany, according to recent trade reports. Musk's close ties to Donald Trump, including his role as a federal advisor, have made Tesla a lightning rod for outrage. In France, Denmark, and other nations, social media campaigns like Boycott USA and No Tesla are trending, with millions of posts urging consumers to ditch the brand. The company's stock has taken a hit, and its market share is shrinking as European governments encourage local alternatives. Analysts warn that without a swift change in strategy, Tesla's dominance in the EV market could erode, especially as boycotts spread to Asia and Latin. 2. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, a global beverage giant, is reeling from boycotts that have turned it into a symbol of American excess. In France, where more than 60% of consumers support shunning U.S. products, Coca-Cola's iconic red cans are being replaced by local sodas on store shelves. The backlash stems from Trump's tariffs and perceived U.S. arrogance, with campaigns like Choose Local gaining traction.
Yeah, so what we see, these are definitely the beginning of sorrows, and it's looking real bad for America because I want to go back to this article real quick. Because we spoke on this before, speaking about how the nations across the world are boycotting and protesting against American-made products. So again, this article here is from thefastcompany.com. It says, America, the brand, is becoming toxic. It says, between boycotts, protests, and general animosity, the U.S. might be more unpopular internationally now than any time since the days of the Iraq War. Welcome to Pariahmerica. So I looked that up, which is spiritual, right? So Pariahmerica says, Pariahmerica is a term that combines pariah and America, often used to describe the perception of the United States as an outcast or a nation that is rejected by the international community due to its policies or actions. See, people are tired of this place, man. They're tired of the hypocrisy. They're tired of the wars, the sanctions, bullying around these nations. All right. The world is tired of the Western point of view, right? It says the United States is an outcast or a nation that is rejected by the international community due to its policies or actions. It reflects a critical view of America's standing in global affairs, particularly when it is seen as acting contrary to international norms, right? And that's what the people are fed up about. Let me grab this scripture too. This is Habakkuk 2:5. And it reads, it says, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, though the wine represents these wicked philosophies that he pushes throughout the earth. All right, the Moism, the Satanism, all right, pretty much the Western point of view, Western policy, all right, all of these different philosophies and ideas that have corrupt nations, man. All right, so what we're seeing is that these nations are beginning to stand up. They're fighting back. It says, yea, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man. All right. And Esau, dealing with Babylon in general, America is known as a prideful nation. Okay. It says he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell and as death. Right. So everywhere America's in everybody's affairs, all right, dictating on how the world is ran. If you don't necessarily agree with the ways of Babylon, you'll be labeled a threat, an enemy. You see? It says, who enlarges his desire as hell and as death. Yeah, all the wars that's been pushed from Babylon, America, the stealing of the nation's resources, all right, infiltrating different nations, setting up their agendas in those particular countries, It says, enlargeth his desire as hell and as death. It cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. So that's pretty much what Esau does. All right, and I want to come back to this chapter, but it's all spiritual, right? It says, reading that last part again, it says it reflects a critical view of America's standing in global affairs, particularly when it is seen as acting contrary to international norms. All right, so this is what the people are tired of, right? I want to grab that in Isaiah real quick before we go back to the video. Okay, Isaiah 14 and 4, and it reads, it says, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. Who's the king of Babylon today? All right, the Edomite. It says, against the king of Babylon, and say, how have the oppressors ceased? The golden city ceased. It says, the Lord, Yahweh Shai, have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. So we're in a time of what? Of America's power being plundered. All right, and I want to get into this article as well in a little bit. But just reading that title, okay, it says, you think we're afraid of America? It says, Chinese manufacturers seem ready for a trade war. So, hey, nobody's scared of this whore no more. The nations are standing up. They're not backing down, right? And that's part of America's, Babylon's power being stripped away. It says, the Lord, Yahweh Shai, have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. All right, really going back to the elites, man. All right, they're being taken from power. The point of verse 6, it says, Isaiah 14 and 6, it says, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. All right, Esau, he didn't stop. Wars, sanctions, all right, foreign policies, all right, pushing, Moism, idolatry, Satanism, going back to those wicked wines and philosophies. That's all part of the continual stroke. Taxes or whatnot, everything. Okay? He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. Right. So this is what's going on right now. Nobody's going to defend this devil in that day. All right. We're seeing what we're going through in this lesson is the pushback, man. The nation standing up. All right, so this is all spiritual, the Pariahmerica. Let's go back.
In Denmark and Canada, sales have slumped as consumers swap Coke for regional brands, driven by social media influencers and activist groups. Financial reports show double-digit declines in European markets, and the company is scrambling to salvage its image through PR campaigns, but the damage is deep and widespread. 3. McDonald's. McDonald's, the golden arches of American fast food, is facing a fierce backlash across continents. In Europe, particularly France, the Boycott USA movement has targeted McDonald's outlets, with many closing early due to plummeting customer numbers. Canadian consumers are also turning to local burger joints, angered by Trump's trade policies and the U.S.'s aggressive stance. In the U.S., some regions report boycotts over perceived corporate alignment with Trump's agenda. Sales data reveals a 15% drop in global same-store sales, raising alarms about long-term brand loyalty. The company is rolling out discounts, but experts say the damage to its image may be irreversible. 4. Netflix. Netflix, the streaming giant, is caught in the boycott storm due to its American roots and cultural dominance. In Denmark, thousands of subscribers are canceling in favor of local streaming services like Viaplay, fueled by anger over Trump's policies and the U.S.'s international moves. Social media groups with over 100,000 members are urging people to ditch U.S. platforms, citing cultural imperialism and economic nationalism.
There you go. So, hey, this thing is about to affect the economy as a whole. This is about to get crucial. All right? This is a big deal. And I want to just read this part of the article here. All right? And grab some more scriptures here. But this is from the Atlantic. It says, headline, it says, "You think we're afraid of America? Chinese manufacturers seem ready for a trade war." Now, I want to get to the point. It's a long article. I believe, yeah, here we go. Just want to read this highlighted point. Okay, so it says, in the abstract, a Chinese rebalancing should be welcome to the Trump administration. One irony of Trump's tariffs crusade is that it might get China to make the types of reforms that American trade hawks have long sought. But on terms that are suddenly more favorable to Beijing and less favorable to the United States. In the light of Trump's haphazard and destructive tariffs, countries in Europe may see a consumption-oriented China as a more attractive trading partner. You see that? Okay, and this is what they voice. They look, these nations are going to do deals with each other. They don't need America anymore. This all contributes again to the isolation of Babylon, which is going to throw this economy down the tank. Okay? It says Europe may see a consumption-oriented China as a more attractive trading partner. A balanced economy means balanced trade. Chinese consumers buying European goods and European consumers buying Chinese goods. The future choice for America's allies is whether they want to trade with an erratic and abusive America or a China that, however imperfect, could improve as a trading partner. The answer is not obvious. Exactly. So, hey, these other nations they're parting ways with this place. You see? Again, this is Obadiah 1:7. And it reads, it says, "All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him." And I want to read that in the NIV, right? Same verse, Obadiah 1:7 NIV. It says, "All your allies will force you to the border. Your friends will deceive and overpower you." See? Your friends will deceive and overpower you. Those who eat your bread will set a trap for you, but you will not detect it. So part of this is the fact that these nations are no longer doing business with America and they're doing business elsewhere. All right? They're going the route which is more profitable for them. All right? Like I said, the future choice of America's allies is whether they want to trade with an erratic and abusive America or a China that, however imperfect, could improve as a trading partner. The answer is not obvious, right? So they're going to go for what's better for them. All right? But the point again is that the nations, they're not scared. They don't fear this place. All right? Let's go back to Isaiah 14. All right? Because that's all spiritual too. Right? It's Isaiah 14 and verse 9. It says, "Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming." Right, going into Esau's destruction. All right. It says, "It stirreth up the dead for thee," the dead going back to the heathen nations, "and even all the chief ones of the earth. It have raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations." The point, verse 10, it says, all they shall speak and say unto thee, Art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us?" Right. So as I said, the playing grounds are even now. All right. That these nations have come to the realization that you need us. We don't need you. Right. Which is a part of this place becoming weakened. Verse 11, it says, "Thy pomp is brought down to the grave," going back to the pride of this place, man. The pride of Esau. It says, "In the noise of thy vows, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. See that? Going back to the this place being being brought down, it's decomposing. All right, the Lord is he's causing this economy, this system to crumble, man. This place is about to get destroyed. It says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?" You see that? And Lucifer going back to the king of Babylon. All right, the Edomite. Okay, he's being brought down right along with his pride, man, is the point. Right? And I wanted to play this too. All right. Matter of fact, we'll finish this off and we'll go back. We'll go play the next video. Let's play a little bit more of this, and I'll make my point.
In France and Germany, Netflix's subscriber growth has stalled, with competitors gaining ground. The company's leadership is monitoring the situation closely, but early reports suggest significant revenue losses in key markets. 5. Amazon. Amazon, the e-commerce behemoth, is facing boycotts on both sides of the Atlantic. In Europe, consumers are using apps to avoid U.S.-based retailers, angered by Trump's tariffs and Amazon's perceived role in supporting U.S. policies. In the U.S., 20% of consumers plan to shun the platform for aligning with Trump's agenda, according to a recent survey. In Canada, the Buy Canadian movement is hitting Amazon's sales hard, with local e-commerce platforms gaining traction. The company's growth rate has slowed, and analysts predict a potential restructuring if the boycotts persist, threatening its global dominance.
There you go. Let me make the point in this video here, and we'll grab more scriptures. So it says this a few months ago. It says a year of boycott, the high cost of supporting Israel. Right. So the fact that these American companies support, all right, those small hats and 48ers, they're losing business, which is also going to affect the companies in this economy as well. Let's check this out.
Starbucks has fired its CEO. McDonald's global sales are declining. Burger King is changing its name. KFC is closing branches. Wait, what is all this? These are the results of consumer justice. With boycotts, it punishes the big powers and policies that support the Israeli genocide. And here is the outcome of the one-year boycott so far. Laxman Narasimhan, CEO of Starbucks, after just 17 months at the helm, was ousted because of the falling sales due to a global boycott campaign. According to the latest reports, Starbucks sales in North America fell 2% and 7% in the rest of the world, with total international profits falling 23%. And McDonald's, the company that was feeding Israel's army for free, is facing its first global sales decline since 2020. McDonald's revenue fell 12% to just over $2 billion for the second quarter of 2024. In the fallout of feeding a genocidal army and the significant impact of the boycott on business, McDonald's will buy out all 225 of its restaurants in Israel. And Burger King, which is currently going through a difficult period, you guessed it, because of the boycott, is taking off its crown in Turkey and becoming burger. The move, it says, is to embrace local culture and nurture a closer relationship with Turkish consumers. While some are putting on a mask, others are barely surviving. KFC is closing over 100 outlets in Malaysia, and KFC's first store in Algeria was shut down shortly after opening due to nationwide pro-Palestinian protests. Meanwhile, Coca-Cola is declining in every hemisphere. In Europe, the corporation is set to shut down 5 plants in Germany through 2025, and in the Middle East, together with Pepsi, it suffered a 7% drop in sales in the first half of the year. The company fared no better in Asia. For example, in Bangladesh alone, Coca-Cola sales fell by 23%. And the Pakistani factory that makes cans for Coca-Cola and Pepsi reported that sales fell by 11% in the first quarter.
All right, so you get it. Hey, like we read, it says America, the brand is becoming toxic, man. People don't want to have anything to do with Babylon. All right, and this all ties into the fall. All right, so again, as I was making mention of, let's go back to Habakkuk 2. All right, because people are fed up, people are tired, right? And I want to read this. Yeah, let's read this in the NLT on down, just to make my point. Because hey, this is the shameful spewing. All right, the America and the small hats are being targeted, you know, being exposed. This is Habakkuk 2 and 7. I'm sorry, verse 6, Habakkuk 2 and 6 in the NLT. It says, but soon their captives will taunt them. They will mock them, saying, what sorrow awaits you, thieves? Now you will get what you deserve. You've become rich by extortion. But how much longer can this go on? And this is part of the the protest that's happening, the boycotts. All right? It's not a good look for this place. Suddenly your debitors would take action. They would turn on you and take all you have while you stand trembling and helpless because you have plundered many nations. Now all the survivors will plunder you. You committed murder throughout the countryside and filled the towns with violence. Yeah, the wars on top of wars, man. All right, supporting what's going on with those small hats, and people are outraged all over the world because of that. All right, the genocide that's going on. You know, it says, what sorrow awaits you who build big houses with money gained dishonestly? You believe your wealth will buy security, putting your family's nest beyond the reach of danger, right? Because your wealth is not gonna keep the judgment of the Lord from falling upon you. Right? That's why when you read Jeremiah, was it 49? It talks about the Lord said their habitations. Let me get it. Right? The least of the flock. The Lord said their habitations should be desolate with them. This is speaking about Babylon and the 48ers. Right? Jeremiah 50 and 45. All right, you can read that one in 20 as well. But Jeremiah 50 and 45, it says, therefore hear the counsel of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, that he have taken against Babylon, all right, America, and his purposes that he have proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out, those small hats. He shall make their habitation desolate with them, right? So Babylon and the small hats are going to be wiped out, according to prophecy. And what we're seeing is these nations beginning to stand up. Verse 10, Habakkuk 2 and 10 NLT, it says, but by the murders you committed, you have shamed your name and fortified your lives. Going back to what we were reading about the brand, America's brand becoming toxic. All right, America's more unpopular internationally than any time than ever since the days of the Iraq War, man. Okay, this shit's about to crash in due time, right? Let's jump down, right? This is, let's read it back in the KJV. I just want to get those verses, but that shameful spewing, all right? Habakkuk 2 and 15, it says, woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy body to him, and that drink going back to those wines, those wicked philosophies, man. All right? It says, and makest him drunk also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness, because these nations have pretty much fallen away from their ways. All right, now they're found naked. They're in sin from taking on the ways of America. You know, the mindset, the Western way that's destroyed these people. That's destroyed these nations. Verse 16, thou art filled with shameful glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. It says, the cup of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai's right hand, should be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing should be on thy glory. That's what's going on right now. All right? You're funding the people know that you're funding these wars, you know, that you're supporting the genocide that's going on over there, as we saw in the video. Okay? The infiltration of these different nations, right? Setting up those central banks for the elites. All right, those puppet leaders that are going to forward America's agendas. You know, people have caught on to this now. And now what we see, shameful spewing, people are rising up, they're protesting, they're boycotting all American products. All right, they're not doing trade and business with America no more. They're going elsewhere. This is all going to affect this place. It's going to bring the destruction of America's economy, which is all by design anyway, right? That modern day Assyrian, all right, is getting ready to be taken down. All right, because the Assyrian today is the Edomite. All right, this is Isaiah 10 and verse, so we'll make a point on that. Isaiah 10 and 12. It says, wherefore it shall come to pass that when the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, have performed his whole work upon Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria, which will be Esau today. in the glory of his high looks, going back to his pride and arrogance. For he said, by the strength, it says, for by the strength of my hand have I done it, right? So he thinks that he's gotten this rule, over the earth by his own will. All right. By the strength of my hand have I done it, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent. And have removed the bounds of the people and robbed their treasures. This is what Esau's done. He's stolen lands that don't belong to him. All right. He's taken resources from these different nations. He's oppressed the people through laws and policies. I have removed the bounds of the people. I have robbed their treasures, and I have put down the inhabitants like a violent man. So he thinks that he's done that off his own strength. It says, verse 14, and my hand have found as the nest of the riches of the people, right? Going into the resources, the riches. It says, and as one that gathereth eggs that are left, have I gathered all the earth. You see that? Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. And there was none that moved the wing or opened the mouth or peeped, because the power that he had was given to him by Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Verse 15, it says, shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith? Right? Because really, all right, Esau, being the axe, but the Most High is the one that's swinging him. It says, or shall the saw magnify against him that shaketh it? Or as if the rod shall shake itself against them that lifted it up, or as if the staff should lift itself as if it were no wood. So really, the point is that it's Yahweh Shem Yahushua that's controlling this devil, right? For the purpose of the left hand. This is everything that he's done is not of his own strength, and that's why he's greatly deceived. And what we're witnessing now is the time of him being taken down, his fall, right? This is I just want to make that point in Ezekiel 31 as well. Pharaoh warned of Assyria's fate, right? Because like we said, the Assyrian today would be the Edomite. All right, I just want to make a point. This is Ezekiel 31. Let's start at Ezekiel 31 in verse, where is it at? Verse 11, right? Verse 10. Ezekiel 31, verse 10, and the reason says, therefore, thus saith the Lord power, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, because thou hast lifted up thyself in height, and have shut up his top among the thick boughs, and his heart is lifted up in his height. Yeah, so Esau's proud. Okay? He's proud, he thinks that he's got everything off of his own strength. Right? It says, verse 11, I have therefore delivered him into the hand of the mighty one of the heathen. He shall surely deal with him. I have driven him out for his wickedness, right? Because what the Lord's about to do, he's about to send those Russians to take him down. The Medes, Gog and Magog, to destroy Babylon. All right? The spirit is going to be upon those Russians to take this place down. Verse 12, the point. And the strangers, the terrible of the nations, have cut him off. And essentially that's what's going on in the spirit right now, dealing with these tariffs, these deals, these nations going amongst themselves and leaving America out. All right. But the Lord is going to allow these nations to finish this place off with nuclear destruction. Right. It says, I've cut him off and left him upon the mountains in all the valleys, and his branches are fallen, and his boughs are broken by all the rivers of the land. And the people of the earth have gone down from his shadow and have left him. You see that? So that's what's happening, right? These nations are separating themselves. America is being isolated. As we read, the American brand is becoming toxic, all right? And this is all a foreshadowing of ultimately the nuclear destruction that the Lord is going to rain upon this place by those nations, So that's kind of what I was thinking about, man. It's all leading to the ultimate destruction of Babylon the Great, which is America, according to the Bible, right? And with that, shalom to the next one. Shalom.